I pulled into the driveway at 5:45, same as always. The garage door rumbled open and I parked next to Sarah's empty spot. She wouldn't be home for another couple hours. Her shift at the clinic didn't end until 8 on Thursdays. The house felt quiet when I walked in through the kitchen door. I dropped my keys on the counter and loosened my tie. Another day of staring at spreadsheets and sitting through meetings that could have been emails. My shoulders ached from hunching over my desk all day. I grabbed a beer from the fridge and twisted off the cap. The cold bottle felt good in my hand after the long drive home. Traffic had been worse than usual, bumper to bumper for the last 10 miles. I took a long drink and felt some of the tension start to leave my neck. The living room was exactly how I'd left it that morning. Remote on the coffee table, throw pillow crooked on the couch where Sarah had been reading the night before. I straightened the pillow out of habit and settled into my usual spot on the right side of the couch. The cushions had molded to my shape over the years. I reached for the remote and clicked on the TV. The evening news was just starting. Some politician was giving a speech about infrastructure spending. I took another sip of beer and flipped through the channels, looking for something that didn't involve politics or talking heads arguing about things they'd never agree on. My phone buzzed against my leg. I pulled it out of my pocket, expecting a text from Sarah about dinner plans, or maybe a reminder about something I'd forgotten. Instead, the screen showed an emergency alert notification. The message filled most of the screen in bold letters. I read it once, then read it again more carefully. The government was warning residents about a dangerous individual in the area. Everyone was supposed to remain indoors immediately. No exceptions. I stared at the phone for a few seconds. Emergency alerts weren't exactly rare anymore. We'd gotten them for severe weather, missing kids, even a few false alarms when the system glitched. But this one felt different somehow. The language was more urgent, more specific than the usual boilerplate warnings. I set my beer down on the coffee table and read the message a third time. The alert didn't give any details about who this dangerous person was or what they'd done, just that residents should stay inside and avoid going out until further notice. The timestamp showed it had been sent just 2 minutes ago. Part of me wondered if this was another false alarm. Last year we'd gotten 3 emergency alerts in 1 week that turned out to be system errors. The local news had done a whole segment about how the alert system was outdated and prone to glitches. But what if this time was real? I looked around the living room, suddenly aware of how exposed I felt sitting there. The front windows faced the street, and even with the curtains drawn, someone could probably see the glow from the TV. The thought made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't quite explain. Better safe than sorry, I decided. I got up from the couch and walked to the front door. The deadbolt was already locked. I always locked it when I got home from work. But I turned the handle anyway, just to make sure. The door didn't budge. I moved through the house methodically, checking every entrance. The back door was locked tight. The sliding door to the patio had its security bar in place. All the windows were latched. I'd done the same routine countless times before, usually when Sarah was working late and I was home alone. But tonight it felt more important somehow. The kitchen windows looked out over our backyard and the neighbor's fence. I could see Mrs. Chen's house through the gap between the oak trees. Her lights were on, and everything looked normal. No sign of any dangerous individuals lurking around. I went back to the living room and picked up the remote. The news was still droning on about the same political story. I flipped to the local channels, looking for any coverage of the emergency alert. Channel 7 was showing a cooking show. Channel 12 had a sitcom rerun. Channel 4 was running commercials. Nothing about any dangerous person in the area. No breaking news alerts scrolling across the bottom of the screen. No reporters standing outside police stations or emergency command centers. If there really was some kind of threat serious enough to warrant an emergency alert, wouldn't the news be covering it? I turned up the volume and continued channel surfing. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe the story was just breaking and the news stations hadn't caught up yet. But after going through every local channel twice, I found nothing. The beer was getting warm in my hand. I took another drink and tried to think logically about the situation. Emergency alerts went out to thousands of people at once. If this was real, other people would be talking about it. Social media would be buzzing. The news would pick it up within minutes. But my phone showed no new notifications. No texts from friends or neighbors asking if I'd gotten the alert too. No missed calls from Sarah checking to make sure I was okay. Just the one emergency message sitting in my notification bar like a digital warning sign. I walked to the front windows and carefully pulled back the edge of the curtain. The street looked exactly like it always did at this time of evening. A few cars parked along the curb. The Johnson sprinkler system running on their front lawn. No police cars, no emergency vehicles, no signs of any unusual activity. Maybe the alert was legitimate, but the threat wasn't in my immediate neighborhood. The message had said, "in the area," which could mean anywhere within a few miles. Or maybe it was one of those precautionary alerts they sent out when someone escaped from custody, or when there was a domestic situation that might spill over into the community. I let the curtain fall back into place and returned to the couch. The smart thing to do was follow the instructions regardless of whether the threat seemed real or not. Stay inside, keep the doors locked, wait for an all-clear message or more information. The TV remote felt heavier in my hand as I continued flipping through channels. I found a nature documentary about wolves and left it there. The narrator's calm voice was better than the constant chatter of news anchors or the laugh tracks from sitcoms. My phone buzzed again. For a second, I thought it might be another emergency alert with more details or an all-clear message. But it was just a notification from my banking app about a payment that had processed. Nothing urgent. I finished my beer and considered getting another one. The kitchen felt farther away than usual, even though it was only 20 feet from where I sat. The house seemed bigger somehow, with more dark corners and blind spots than I'd noticed before. The documentary narrator was explaining how wolves communicated with each other across long distances, pack behavior and territorial instincts. I found myself paying more attention to the sounds outside than to the television. A car door slamming somewhere down the street, the neighbor's dog barking at something, normal evening sounds that suddenly felt worth monitoring. I picked up my phone and checked the emergency alert again. The message was still there, unchanged. No follow-up information, no updates, no estimated time frame for how long residents should stay indoors. Just the same stark warning about a dangerous individual in the area. The living room felt too bright with all the lights on. I got up and turned off the overhead fixture, leaving just the lamp beside the couch. The TV provided enough light to see by, and the dimmer setting made me feel less visible from outside. I settled back into the couch and tried to focus on the documentary. The wolves were hunting now, working together to track their prey through deep snow. Their coordination was impressive, each animal knowing exactly what role to play without any apparent communication. But my mind kept drifting back to the emergency alert. Who was this dangerous person? What had they done? Were they armed? Were they targeting random houses or looking for someone specific? The lack of details was almost worse than knowing the truth would have been. I reached for the remote and turned up the volume slightly. The narrator's voice filled the room, drowning out the small sounds from outside that had been making me jumpy. Better to focus on something concrete and educational than to let my imagination run wild with possibilities I couldn't control. The beer bottle sat empty on the coffee table. catching the light from the TV screen. I thought about getting another one but decided against it. If this emergency alert turned out to be real, I wanted to stay sharp and alert. The last thing I needed was to be impaired if something actually happened. I checked my phone one more time. Still no new messages, no missed calls, no social media notifications about the alert. Either everyone else was taking it seriously and staying offline, or the message had only gone out to a small number of people. Neither possibility made me feel particularly better about the situation. The wolves on screen had successfully brought down their prey and were feeding as a pack. The narrator explained how they would share the meal according to a strict hierarchy, with the alpha pair eating first. Nature had its own rules and systems for survival, most of them based on caution and preparation. Maybe that's all this was, just being cautious and prepared, following the instructions even if the threat turned out to be nothing. Better to spend an evening locked inside my own house than to ignore a legitimate warning and regret it later. I leaned back against the couch cushions and tried to relax. The documentary was soothing, and the house felt secure with all the doors locked and curtains drawn. Whatever was happening out there, if anything was happening at all, I was safe inside my own home. My phone buzzed again and I grabbed it off the coffee table. Another emergency alert. I read it twice to make sure I wasn't missing anything. Emergency alert. Dangerous individual remains at large in your area. All residents must stay indoors until further notice. Do not open doors for anyone. Avoid windows and keep lights low. This is not a drill. I set the phone down and stared at the TV screen. The nature documentary was still playing, but I wasn't watching it anymore. 2 alerts in one night. That didn't happen unless something was really wrong. I picked up the remote and turned off the TV. The sudden silence made everything feel different. I could hear the house settling around me, little creaks and pops that I usually ignored. The refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. Outside, a car drove past, its headlights sweeping across the front windows. I got up and walked to the front window, staying to the side so I couldn't be seen from outside. The street looked normal. Porch lights were on at most of the houses. The Hendersons across the street had their living room lights on, and I could see the blue glow of their TV through the curtains. Everything looked the same as always, but something was different. I couldn't put my finger on it. My phone buzzed a third time. I walked back to the couch and picked it up. The new alert made my stomach drop. Emergency alert. Dangerous individual has been spotted inside residential homes. Find a secure location immediately. Stay quiet and do not make noise. Lock all doors and remain hidden until authorities arrive. Inside homes. How the hell was someone getting inside people's homes? My heart started beating faster. I read the message again, focusing on each word. Spotted inside residential homes. That meant this person had already broken into houses. Multiple houses from the sound of it. I stood up and looked around the living room. Everything was locked. I'd checked all the doors and windows after the first alert. But if this person was getting inside other houses, how were they doing it? I walked to the front door and checked the deadbolt again. Still locked. The chain was in place too. I went to the kitchen and tested the back door. Locked tight. The sliding patio door was secure, with the wooden dowel I always kept in the track. But the alert said to find a secure location and stay hidden. That meant being in the living room wasn't safe enough. I turned off the lamp, leaving the house in darkness except for the light coming from the kitchen. Then I went back and turned that off too. The house was completely dark now, just the way the alert had suggested. I grabbed my phone and headed upstairs. Each step creaked under my weight, and I tried to step more quietly. The alert had said not to make noise. If someone was breaking into houses, they might be listening for sounds that would tell them where people were hiding. At the top of the stairs, I paused and listened. Nothing. Just the normal sounds of the house at night. I went into the bedroom and closed the door behind me. Then I locked it. The bedroom door lock wasn't much, just a simple button lock that could probably be kicked in without too much trouble. But it was better than nothing. I sat on the edge of the bed and checked my phone again. The 3 alerts were still there, each one more urgent than the last. I scrolled through them again, looking for details I might have missed. The first one had mentioned a dangerous individual in the area. The second one said to stay indoors until further notice. The third one said the person had been spotted inside homes and told everyone to hide. That progression bothered me. It was like the situation was getting worse by the hour. First, the person was just in the area. Then they were telling people to stay inside. Now they were inside people's houses. I wondered how many houses. The alert said, residential homes, plural, so at least 2, maybe more. And if this person was breaking in, what were they doing once they got inside? I didn't want to think about that. I got up and checked the bedroom windows. Both were locked. The one facing the backyard had a view of the neighbor's fence and the alley beyond it. Everything looked quiet back there. The front bedroom window looked out over the street. I stayed to the side and peered through the curtains. The street was still empty except for parked cars, but now I noticed something I hadn't seen before. The house 2 doors down, the Miller's place, was completely dark. No porch light, no lights in any of the windows. That was weird. The Millers always left their porch light on at night. Always. I'd lived on this street for 6 years, and I'd never seen their house completely dark after sunset. I stared at their house for a long time, trying to see if there was any movement in the windows. Nothing. It looked empty. Maybe they weren't home. Maybe they'd gone out of town and forgotten to leave a light on. Or maybe they'd gotten the same alerts I had and decided to keep their house dark. Or maybe something had happened to them. I backed away from the window and sat down on the bed again. My hands were shaking slightly. I hadn't realized how tense I was getting. I checked the time on my phone. 8:23. Sarah would be getting off work in about 40 minutes. She'd probably try to drive home not knowing about the alerts. I should call her and tell her to stay at the clinic until this was over. But what if calling her made noise that someone could hear? The alert had said to stay quiet. I didn't know if that meant no phone calls, but I didn't want to take any chances. I decided to text her instead. I typed out a message. Emergency alerts about dangerous person in area. Stay at work until I call you. Don't come home yet. I hit send and waited. The message showed as delivered, but Sarah didn't respond right away. She was probably busy with a patient or finishing up paperwork. I set the phone on the nightstand and tried to think about what to do next. The alert had said to stay hidden until authorities arrived. But how long would that take? And how would I know when it was safe to come out? I got up and went to the bedroom closet. It was a walk-in closet, big enough for me to sit in comfortably. If someone did break into the house, they might not think to look in there right away. It would give me time to call for help or figure out what to do. I grabbed a pillow from the bed and went into the closet, pulling the door mostly closed behind me. I left it open just a crack so I could hear what was happening in the rest of the house. The closet was dark and quiet. I could hear my own breathing and the sound of my heart beating. Outside the closet, the house was silent. I checked my phone again. Still no response from Sarah. The 3 emergency alerts were still there, but no new ones had come in. I sat there in the dark, listening to every sound. The house settling, a car driving by outside, the neighbor's dog barking once and then going quiet. Every few minutes, I checked my phone for new alerts or a message from Sarah. Nothing. The minutes crawled by. 8:30, 8:35, 8:40. At 8:43, my phone buzzed. I stared at my phone screen, reading the fourth alert that had just buzzed in. The message was different from the others, and it made my stomach drop. Emergency alert. Dangerous individual may appear as someone familiar to you. Do not trust appearances. The threat may look like a family member, friend, or neighbor. Remain hidden and do not respond to familiar voices. I read it 3 times, trying to make sense of what it was saying. How could a dangerous person look like someone I knew? That didn't make any sense. Was it talking about disguises? Some kind of mask? I couldn't wrap my head around it. I shifted on the closet floor, the pillow bunched up under me. My back was starting to ache from sitting in the same position, but I didn't want to move around too much and make noise. The house was still completely silent except for the usual settling sounds. My phone buzzed again. Another alert. Emergency alert. Previous alert contained error. Dangerous individual is not real. Repeat, threat is not real. However, continue to follow all safety protocols. Stay indoors. Avoid windows. Keep lights off. I stared at the screen, completely confused now. Not real? What did that even mean? If the threat wasn't real, why were they still telling me to hide? And how could something be both not real and dangerous at the same time? It was like they were contradicting themselves in the same message. I scrolled back through all the alerts I'd received tonight. The first one warned about a dangerous individual in the area. The second said the person had been spotted inside homes. The third told me they were in residential homes and to find a secure location. Now this fourth one said the person might look familiar, and the fifth said the threat wasn't real, but to keep following safety instructions anyway. None of it made sense. I'd never seen emergency alerts that contradicted each other like this. Usually they were straightforward. Severe weather warnings, amber alerts for missing kids, that kind of thing. These messages felt wrong somehow, like they were written by different people who weren't talking to each other. I checked the time on my phone. 8:51. Sarah should have gotten my text by now, but she still hadn't responded. Maybe she was busy with a patient or something. The clinic could get hectic during evening hours. My phone buzzed again and I nearly jumped out of my skin. Another alert. Emergency alert. System experiencing delayed connection with emergency alert network. Some messages may be duplicated or contain outdated information. Disregard conflicting instructions. Current status. Monitoring situation. Now they were telling me the system was malfunctioning. That explained the contradictory messages, but it also made me wonder if any of the alerts were legitimate. Maybe the whole thing was just a technical glitch, and there was no dangerous person at all. But then why hadn't they sent out a cancellation message? When there were false alarms, they usually followed up pretty quickly to let people know it was a mistake. I leaned back against the closet wall, trying to think this through logically. Either there really was a dangerous person out there, or the alert system was completely screwed up. Both possibilities were unsettling in their own way. If the alerts were real, then someone dangerous was in the area and might look like someone I knew. That was terrifying to think about. How would I even know if someone was really who they appeared to be? If the alerts were fake or malfunctioned, then someone had either hacked the system or there was a serious technical problem. That was almost as scary because it meant I couldn't trust the emergency alert system at all. I thought about all the times I'd relied on those alerts for weather warnings and other emergencies. If the system could be compromised like this, how would anyone know when there was a real emergency? My phone screen dimmed, and I tapped it to keep it lit. I scrolled through the alerts again, looking for any clues about what was really going on. The timestamps showed they'd been sent over the course of about an hour, starting at 7:45. The language in each one was slightly different, like they'd been written by different people. The first few alerts sounded official and professional. The later ones were more specific and personal, especially the one about the threat looking familiar. That didn't sound like standard emergency alert language at all. I wondered if I should try calling the emergency services number to ask about the alerts, but I didn't want to make noise. And what would I even say? That I was getting weird emergency alerts that contradicted each other? The house creaked somewhere downstairs, and I froze, listening intently. It was probably just the normal settling sounds, but after all these alerts about dangerous people in homes, every little noise made me nervous. I checked my phone again. Still no response from Sarah. I thought about calling her, but if there really was someone dangerous in the area, I didn't want to make any noise that might give away my location. The whole situation felt surreal. A few hours ago, I'd been sitting on the couch watching TV and drinking a beer. Now I was hiding in my bedroom closet, trying to figure out if the emergency alerts on my phone were real or if someone had hacked the system. I shifted position again, trying to get more comfortable. The carpet in the closet was thin, and I could feel the hard floor underneath. My legs were starting to go numb from sitting in the same position for so long. Another thought occurred to me. What if the alerts weren't random? What if someone was specifically targeting people in my area, or even targeting me personally? The messages had gotten increasingly specific and strange. The one about the threat looking familiar was especially weird. But that was probably just paranoia talking. Why would anyone target me specifically? I was just a regular guy with a regular job. I didn't have any enemies or secrets that would make me a target. Still, the timing of the alerts felt deliberate somehow. Each one had come just when I was starting to relax or think the situation might be under control. It was like someone was watching and knew exactly when to send the next message to keep me on edge. I shook my head, trying to clear away the paranoid thoughts. The most likely explanation was that the alert system was malfunctioning, maybe due to some kind of technical problem or cyber attack. These things happen sometimes with government systems. My phone buzzed again, and my heart rate spiked. I looked at the screen, expecting another confusing emergency alert. Instead, it was a text from Sarah. "Still at work. Everything okay? Your message sounded urgent." I felt a wave of relief wash over me. At least Sarah was safe at the clinic. I started typing a response, then stopped. How could I explain this whole situation without sounding crazy? That I was hiding in our bedroom closet because of some contradictory emergency alerts. I decided to keep it simple. Emergency alerts about dangerous person in area. Staying inside until situation clears. Don't come home yet. I sent the message and waited for her response. At least now I knew she was okay and wouldn't be driving home into whatever this situation was. The house was still quiet. No more creaking sounds, no cars passing outside. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the occasional settling noise from the walls. I looked at my phone again, checking for any new alerts. The screen showed my text conversation with Sarah, but no new emergency messages. Maybe the system had finally stopped malfunctioning, or whoever was sending the fake alerts had given up. But I still didn't feel safe enough to leave the closet. Even if the alerts were fake, it was better to be cautious. I could wait a little longer to make sure the situation was really over. I thought about what I would do if I heard someone in the house. The bedroom door was locked, but that wouldn't stop someone who really wanted to get in. I didn't have any weapons up here except maybe a baseball bat in the garage, but that was downstairs. The smart thing would be to call 911 if I heard anything suspicious. Let the police handle it instead of trying to be a hero. I wasn't trained for this kind of situation. My phone buzzed with Sarah's response. "Okay. I'll stay here until you say it's safe. Be careful." I felt better knowing she would stay at the clinic. Whatever was going on, at least she was out of it. I settled back against the closet wall, resigned to waiting this out. The alerts had stopped coming, which was either a good sign or meant that whoever was sending them had moved on to the next phase of whatever they were planning. I climbed out of the closet, my legs stiff from sitting on the floor for so long. The bedroom felt different now, quieter somehow, like the house was holding its breath. I walked to the door and pressed my ear against it, listening for any sounds from downstairs. Nothing but the usual creaks and the hum of the refrigerator. I unlocked the bedroom door and stepped into the hallway. The stairs looked normal, but everything felt off after those confusing alerts. I made my way downstairs, checking each step carefully to avoid making noise. The living room was exactly how I'd left it, dark except for the streetlight coming through the front windows. I went to the front door first and tested the deadbolt. Still locked tight. I jiggled the handle just to be sure. The back door was next. I walked through the kitchen and checked the lock there too. Secure. The sliding patio door in the dining room had its security bar in place, and I gave it a small push to make sure it wouldn't budge. Moving from window to window, I checked each latch. The living room windows were locked. Kitchen window over the sink, locked. I went back upstairs and verified the bedroom windows again, then checked the bathroom window. Everything was still secure, just like before. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Those alerts kept playing in my head. The contradictions, the weird timing, the way they seemed to know more than they should. I walked back downstairs and sat on the couch, staring at my phone. The screen was dark, no new notifications. I opened the emergency alert app and scrolled through the messages again. The first one about staying indoors, the second about the dangerous person being in homes. Then that strange one about the person looking familiar, followed by the one saying it wasn't real. Finally, the alert about the system malfunction. None of it made sense. Emergency alerts were supposed to be clear and consistent, not a jumbled mess of conflicting information. I'd never seen anything like it before. Usually, when there was a real emergency, severe weather, missing person, that kind of thing, the messages were straightforward and came from official sources. I got up and walked to the front window again, staying to the side where I couldn't be seen from outside. The street looked normal. Porch lights on at most houses. A few cars parked along the curb. The Hendersons' place still had their living room lights on, but the Miller's house was still completely dark, which bothered me more now than before. My phone buzzed. I looked down at the screen and felt my stomach drop. Another emergency alert. Emergency. Alert. Remain calm and avoid unnecessary movement. Do not make noise that could attract attention to your location. Stay where you are and wait for further instructions. I read it 3 times. This wasn't like the others. It felt more personal somehow, like it was written specifically for someone hiding in their house, trying to stay quiet. The language was different too, more direct, more like someone was watching and giving real-time advice. I looked around the living room, suddenly aware of every sound I was making. The floorboard that creaked near the kitchen, the way my breathing seemed loud in the silence. Even the soft buzz of my phone felt too noisy. Another buzz. Another alert. Emergency. Alert. If you are reading this message, you are being monitored for your safety. Follow all instructions exactly as given. Do not attempt to contact others. My hands started shaking. This wasn't a general emergency broadcast anymore. This was targeted. Someone knew I was reading these messages. Someone knew I was alone in my house, hiding, trying to stay safe. I thought about the timing. The first alerts had come when I was watching TV, then more when I was upstairs in the closet. Now these new ones, right after I'd finished checking all the locks and windows, like whoever was sending them could see what I was doing. But that was impossible. There were no cameras in my house, no way for anyone to monitor me unless... I looked at my phone again. Could someone be tracking me through this? Watching my location, knowing when I moved from room to room? I walked to the kitchen and set the phone on the counter, backing away from it like it might bite me. But then I realized I needed it. If something really was happening, if there really was a dangerous person out there, I needed to be able to call for help. I picked it up again and checked for new messages from Sarah. Nothing since her last text saying she'd stay at the clinic. I started to type a message to her, then stopped. The alert had said not to contact others. But why? What difference would it make if I texted my wife? Unless someone was monitoring all communications, unless they could see everything I was doing, everyone I was talking to. I deleted the message I'd started typing and put the phone back in my pocket. The house felt smaller now, like the walls were closing in. Every shadow looked wrong. Every sound made me jump. I went back to checking the doors, even though I'd just done it 5 minutes ago. Front door, locked. Back door, locked. Sliding door, secured. But now I was wondering if locks would even matter. If someone could send me personal messages through the emergency alert system, what else could they do? The phone buzzed again. I almost didn't want to look, but I had to know. Emergency alert. You are doing well by following safety protocols. Continue to remain hidden and quiet. The situation is being handled. I stared at the message until the words blurred together. This wasn't from the government. This wasn't from any official emergency service. Someone was playing games with me, using the alert system to mess with my head. But how? And why? I thought about calling 911, but what would I tell them? That I was getting weird text messages? That someone might be watching me through my phone? They'd think I was paranoid or having some kind of breakdown. But the alternative was worse. The alternative was that this was all real. That someone really was monitoring me. Really was sending me personal instructions through a system that was supposed to protect people. I walked back to the living room and sat down on the couch, holding the phone in both hands. The screen stayed dark for a long time. No new alerts. No messages from Sarah. Just silence and the growing certainty that whatever was happening, it was far from over. I sat on the couch in the dark living room, my phone heavy in my hands. The silence felt different now, thicker somehow, like the air itself was holding its breath. I'd been staring at that last emergency alert for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of how whoever was sending these messages seemed to know exactly what was happening in my house. That's when I heard it. David? My blood turned to ice. The voice drifted up from somewhere downstairs. Soft, familiar, with that slight upturn at the end that made it sound like a question. It was Sarah's voice. Exactly Sarah's voice, down to the way she always called my name when she got home from work. But Sarah wasn't supposed to be home. She was at the clinic until 8, and it was only, I checked my phone, 9:12. She hadn't texted me back about coming home early. She hadn't said anything about leaving work. David, are you upstairs? There it was again. The same tone she used every single day when she walked through the front door. The same inflection, the same warmth. I could picture her standing in the entryway, probably setting her purse on the little table by the door, looking around for me. Every fiber of my being wanted to call back to her, to say, "Yeah, I'm up here," like I did every other night, to get up and walk downstairs and see her face and feel that relief of having her home safe. But those alerts kept echoing in my head. The one about dangerous individuals who might appear as someone familiar. The one warning me not to respond to familiar voices. "David, I'm home." My hands started shaking. It sounded so much like her, not just similar, identical. The way she drew out the first syllable of my name, the slight breathiness in her voice after a long day at work, even the rhythm of how she spoke. I gripped the phone tighter and forced myself to think. Sarah's shift didn't end until 8. It was past 9 now, but she would have texted me if she was leaving early. She always did. And after all those emergency alerts, after everything that had happened tonight, wouldn't she have called me the second she got to her car? "David, where are you?" The voice was moving now. I could hear footsteps on the hardwood floor downstairs, the same pattern Sarah's heels made when she walked through the house. Click, pause, click, pause, as she probably kicked off her shoes and padded around in her stockings. I wanted to believe it was her so badly it physically hurt. But something was wrong. Something about the timing, about the way she hadn't responded to my earlier text, about how this was happening right after all those bizarre alerts. The footsteps moved toward the stairs. "David, I know you're up there. Are you okay?" That last part made my chest tighten. She sounded concerned now, worried, the way she always did when I was sick or upset about something. It was so perfectly Sarah that for a second I almost stood up, almost called back to her. But I remembered that alert, the one that specifically warned about not responding to familiar voices, about how the dangerous individual might sound like someone I knew. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. "David, please answer me, I'm coming up." I heard the first step creak, then the second. She was climbing the stairs now, and each footstep sounded exactly like Sarah's. Not heavier, not lighter. The same rhythm she'd used thousands of times coming up to our bedroom. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure she'd hear it. I stayed frozen on the couch, phone clutched in my sweaty hands, trying to decide what to do. Part of me was screaming that this was Sarah, that I was being paranoid, that I should run to her and apologize for hiding. But another part of me, the part that had been listening to those alerts all night, kept whispering that something was very, very wrong. "David, I can see the light under the bedroom door. Are you in there?" She was at the top of the stairs now. I could hear her moving down the hallway toward our bedroom. Her voice was getting closer, and it still sounded exactly like Sarah. Exactly like the woman I'd been married to for 6 years. But Sarah was supposed to be at work. Sarah would have texted me back. Sarah would have called if she was coming home early, especially after I'd told her about the emergency alerts. "David, the bedroom door is locked. Why is it locked?" I heard the doorknob rattle. I'd locked it when I went upstairs earlier, when the alerts first started getting weird. Now I was grateful for that decision, even though every instinct was telling me to unlock it and let my wife in. "David, please open the door. I'm worried about you." The voice was right outside the bedroom now. So close. So familiar. So perfectly, impossibly Sarah. But it couldn't be Sarah. It couldn't be. I stayed on the couch, barely breathing, as the doorknob rattled again. I needed to get to the gun. The thought hit me like a punch to the gut as I sat there on the couch, listening to what sounded exactly like Sarah calling my name from downstairs. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold my phone. But I knew what I had to do. I stood up slowly, trying not to make any noise on the hardwood floor. Every step felt like it echoed through the whole house, even though I was trying to move as quietly as possible. The voice downstairs kept calling. "David? Where are you, honey?" And it sounded so much like Sarah that part of me wanted to just run down there and throw my arms around her. But the alerts, those damn alerts kept playing in my head. Don't respond to familiar voices. The dangerous individual may appear as someone you know. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. I made it to the bedroom and closed the door behind me as quietly as I could. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure whoever was downstairs could hear it. I walked over to the nightstand on my side of the bed and pulled open the bottom drawer. Under a stack of old magazines and some papers, I found the small key I kept hidden there. The safe was in the back corner of our walk-in closet, behind a row of Sarah's dresses. I'd installed it myself about 2 years ago after our neighbor's house got broken into. Sarah had rolled her eyes at the time, said I was being paranoid, but I'd insisted we needed somewhere secure to keep important documents and the handgun I'd inherited from my dad. I knelt down in front of the safe and punched in the code. Sarah's birthday, which probably wasn't the smartest choice, but it was the only number I knew I'd never forget. The lock clicked open with a soft mechanical sound that seemed way too loud in the quiet bedroom. Inside the safe, wrapped in an old towel, was my dad's 9mm pistol. I'd only fired it a handful of times at the shooting range, mostly just to make sure I remembered how it worked. My hands were still shaking as I unwrapped it and checked the magazine. 6 rounds, just like I remembered. I slid the magazine back in and pulled the slide to chamber a round, the way my dad had taught me when I was 16. The weight of the gun felt strange in my hands, heavier than I remembered and colder. I'd never thought I'd actually need to use it for anything other than target practice. The whole situation felt surreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. "David?" The voice came again from downstairs, closer now. "I can see the light under the bedroom door. Why is it locked?" I froze. The bedroom door was locked. I'd turned the deadbolt when I came in. But how did she know there was light under the door? I'd only turned on the small lamp on the nightstand, and I was pretty sure the light wouldn't be visible from the hallway. Unless she was right outside the door. I moved back into the closet, pushing past Sarah's work clothes and the winter coats we hardly ever used. The back corner was dark and cramped, but I could see the bedroom through the partially open closet door. I sat down on the floor behind a row of shoeboxes, the gun heavy in my lap. "David, you're scaring me." The voice was right outside the bedroom now. "What's wrong? Why won't you answer me?" It sounded exactly like Sarah. The tone, the way she said my name, even the slight worry in her voice that she got when she thought something was wrong. But Sarah was supposed to be at work. Sarah was supposed to be at the clinic until at least 9 o'clock, and she always texted me when she was leaving. I heard the doorknob rattle. Whoever was out there was trying to get in. "David, please. I know you're in there. I just want to make sure you're okay." The voice used the same gentle tone Sarah used when I was sick or stressed about work. It knew exactly how to sound concerned without being pushy. It knew exactly what Sarah would say. I gripped the gun tighter and tried to control my breathing. In through my nose, out through my mouth, the way my dad had taught me at the range. Stay calm, stay focused. Don't let your emotions make decisions for you. The doorknob rattled again, more insistently this time. "David, I'm getting worried. Did something happen? Are you hurt?" I wanted to answer. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to unlock that door and let Sarah in. But the alerts kept echoing in my head. The dangerous individual may appear as someone familiar. Don't respond to familiar voices. How could someone sound exactly like Sarah? How could they know the pet names she used, the way she talked when she was worried? It didn't make sense, but nothing about this whole night made sense. I heard footsteps moving away from the door, then coming back, like whoever was out there was pacing in the hallway. "David, I'm going to call the police if you don't answer me. I'm scared something happened to you." That sounded like something Sarah would say. She always threatened to call for help when she was really worried about something. But the timing was all wrong. Sarah should be at work. Sarah should have texted me if she was coming home early. I shifted position on the closet floor, trying to find a spot where the shoeboxes weren't digging into my back. The gun felt slippery in my sweaty palms. I wiped my hands on my jeans one at a time, never letting go of the weapon completely. The footsteps stopped right outside the bedroom door. "David, I know you can hear me. Please, just say something so I know you're okay." The voice was softer now, almost pleading. It sounded hurt and confused, like Sarah did when we had a fight, and she couldn't understand why I was upset. It was perfect. Too perfect. I closed my eyes and tried to think. Sarah's shift ended at 8. It was past 9 now. She could have gotten off early, could have decided to come home without texting. But she always texted. Always. Even if it was just to say she was leaving work 5 minutes early. And the alerts. The timing was too convenient. First the warnings about staying inside, then about someone being in homes, then about not trusting familiar voices. And now, someone who sounded exactly like Sarah was trying to get into our bedroom. I opened my eyes and stared at the bedroom door through the gap in the closet. The doorknob was perfectly still now. No more rattling, no more attempts to get in. Just silence. That was worse somehow. At least when whoever was out there was trying the door, I knew where they were. Now I had no idea what was happening on the other side of that locked door. I waited, holding my breath, straining to hear any sound from the hallway. The house was old and the floors creaked when you walked on them, but I couldn't hear anything. No footsteps, no movement, nothing. Maybe they'd given up. Maybe whoever it was had moved on to another part of the house. Or maybe they were just standing there waiting for me to make a sound. I shifted the gun in my hands, making sure I had a good grip. My finger rested alongside the trigger guard, not on the trigger itself. Safety first, just like my dad had drilled into me. Don't put your finger on the trigger unless you're ready to shoot. The silence stretched on. My legs were starting to cramp from sitting on the hard closet floor, but I didn't dare move. Any sound might give away my position. Then I heard it. A soft scratching sound like fingernails on wood. It was coming from the bedroom door. I felt my phone vibrate against my palm, and I looked down to see another emergency alert lighting up the screen. My hands were still shaking from gripping the gun, and I had to steady myself to read the message clearly. Emergency alert. Stay calm and do not respond to any voices or sounds in your home. Remain in your current location. Do not move or make noise. This is for your safety. I read the message 3 times, my heart pounding harder with each word. The timing was too perfect, too exact. Just as the voice outside had started calling my name, this alert appeared. Just as I'd hidden in the closet with the gun, another message told me to stay put. It couldn't be a coincidence. The voice outside the bedroom door called my name again. "David, I know you're in there. Why won't you answer me?" It sounded exactly like Sarah. Every inflection, every tone was perfect. The way she said my name when she was worried, the slight catch in her voice when she was scared. But Sarah was supposed to be at work. Sarah would have texted me if she was coming home early. Sarah wouldn't be here at 9:30 at night without any warning. I gripped the gun tighter and stared at my phone screen. The alert was still there, glowing in the darkness of the closet. Whoever was sending these messages knew what was happening in my house. They knew I was hiding. They knew there was someone outside my bedroom door calling my name. "David, please. I can see light under the door. Are you okay? You're scaring me." The voice moved closer to the bedroom door. I could hear footsteps on the hardwood floor, the same pattern Sarah made when she walked through our house. Light footsteps, a slight pause, then more steps. But how could the emergency alert system know exactly when someone was in my house? How could they know the precise moment to tell me not to respond to voices? My phone buzzed again, and another message appeared. "Emergency alert. The individual in your home is not who they appear to be. Do not trust familiar voices. Remain hidden until authorities arrive." I felt my blood turn cold. The alerts weren't just random government warnings. They were responding to what was happening in real time. Someone was watching. Someone knew that a voice was calling my name, knew that it sounded like someone I recognized, knew that I was struggling with whether to respond. The footsteps outside moved again, and I heard the doorknob rattle as someone tried to turn it. The locked door held, but the sound made me press myself further back into the corner of the closet, behind Sarah's hanging dresses. "David, why is the door locked? What's wrong? Please talk to me." The voice was getting more insistent, more worried. It was Sarah's voice when she was really scared, when something was genuinely wrong. But the alerts kept coming, kept warning me not to trust what I was hearing. And the timing was too perfect. Every message arrived exactly when I needed to hear it, exactly when the situation was escalating. I checked the time on my phone. 9:32. Sarah's shift ended at 8, but she would have texted me if she was leaving early. She always did. We had that routine, that understanding. She would never just show up without warning. Especially not when I'd sent her that message about staying at work. The doorknob rattled again, more forcefully this time. "David, I'm getting really worried. Please open the door. It's me, it's Sarah. I came home because I got your text and I was scared something happened to you." I wanted to believe it. Every instinct in my body wanted to get up, unlock the door, and run to her. But the alerts kept appearing on my phone, and they knew too much. They knew exactly what was happening, exactly when it was happening. That wasn't possible unless someone was monitoring my house, watching everything in real time. My phone vibrated again, and I looked down at another message. "Emergency alert. You are being monitored for your safety. The individual outside your door is not your wife. Do not respond. Do not move. Help is coming." The words hit me like a physical blow. They knew it was supposed to be my wife. They knew someone was outside my door. They knew I was hiding and struggling with what to do. But how? How could anyone know these details unless they were watching everything? I heard the footsteps move away from the door, and the voice called from further away, maybe near the top of the stairs. "David, I'm going to call the police if you don't answer me. Something's wrong. This isn't like you." The voice was moving through the house now, and I could track its progress by the sound. Down the hall, toward the stairs, then back toward the bedroom. The same walking pattern Sarah used, the same rhythm. But the alerts kept insisting it wasn't her. I stared at my phone, trying to understand how the emergency system could be so precise, so immediate. Government alerts were supposed to be broad warnings sent to entire areas. They weren't supposed to know individual situations, weren't supposed to respond to specific events happening in real time. Unless someone was watching, unless someone had access to my house, to cameras or microphones I didn't know about. unless the alerts weren't coming from the government at all. The footsteps returned to the bedroom door, and I heard the voice again, closer now. "David, I'm really scared. Please just say something so I know you're okay." My phone buzzed with another alert, and I looked down to see the most specific message yet. Emergency alert. The subject is attempting to gain your trust through emotional manipulation. Do not respond to pleas or expressions of concern. Maintain your position. I felt my hands start shaking harder. The alerts weren't just warning me about a general threat. They were describing exactly what was happening outside my door, exactly what the voice was saying, exactly how I was feeling. Someone was listening to every word, watching every movement, predicting every response. The voice outside continued calling my name, but now I couldn't tell if it really sounded like Sarah or if my mind was playing tricks on me. The alerts had systematically destroyed my ability to trust what I was hearing, what I was feeling, what I thought I knew. I sat in the darkness of the closet, gripping the gun and staring at my phone, realizing that whoever was sending these messages knew exactly where I was, exactly what I was doing, and exactly what was happening in my house. My phone buzzed again, and I looked down at the screen with shaking hands. The latest emergency alert made my blood freeze in my veins. Emergency alert. Put down your weapon immediately and exit your hiding location. Proceed to the kitchen where the dangerous individual is waiting. Failure to comply will result in escalation. This is your final warning. I read the message 3 times, each word hitting me like a physical blow. They knew I had a gun. They knew exactly where I was hiding. Somehow, whoever was sending these alerts was tracking my every movement, watching me like I was some kind of lab rat in a maze. My hands trembled so badly I almost dropped the phone. How was this possible? I'd been careful, quiet. I hadn't made any noise that would give away my position. Yet this message proved beyond any doubt that someone knew I was armed and crouched behind Sarah's dresses in our walk-in closet. The voice outside the bedroom door called my name again. "David? Please, I'm worried about you. Why won't you answer me?" I pressed myself further back into the corner of the closet, gripping the gun so tightly my knuckles had gone white. That voice, it sounded exactly like Sarah. Every inflection, every tone, the way she said my name when she was concerned. But the emergency alerts had warned me not to trust familiar voices. They'd told me someone might appear as someone I knew. Now I couldn't tell what was real anymore. "David, I got your text about staying at work, but I came home anyway. Something felt wrong. Are you okay?" The voice was so perfect, so completely Sarah, that every instinct in my body screamed at me to unlock the bedroom door and run to her. But the alerts had systematically destroyed my ability to trust anything. Each message had chipped away at my confidence, my certainty, until I couldn't even trust my own senses. My phone buzzed with another message. "Emergency alert. You have 30 seconds to comply. Leave the closet now and proceed to the kitchen. The dangerous individual requires your immediate presence." 30 seconds. They were giving me a countdown now, like this was some kind of game. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. The gun felt slippery in my sweaty palms. "David." The voice outside sounded more urgent now. "I'm coming in. I have my key." I heard the jingle of keys, then the sound of the bedroom door opening. Footsteps crossed the hardwood floor, the same pattern Sarah always made when she walked into our room. 3 steps to the dresser, pause, then toward the bed. My phone lit up again. Emergency alert. 15 seconds remaining. Exit immediately or face consequences. The footsteps stopped right outside the closet door. I could see the shadow of feet through the crack at the bottom. My breathing was so loud I was sure whoever was out there could hear it. "David, are you in the closet? Why are you hiding from me?" That voice. It was Sarah's voice asking Sarah's question in Sarah's worried tone. But Sarah was supposed to be at work until 8, and it was past 9:30 now. Sarah always texted when she left work early. Always. "Emergency alert. Time expired. Initiating final protocol." I stared at the phone screen, my vision blurring from fear. Final protocol? What did that mean? The alerts had been coordinating everything, somehow knowing exactly where I was and what I was doing. They'd guided me step by step into this moment. And now they wanted me to walk into the kitchen, where someone was waiting. The closet door handle turned slowly. I raised the gun with both hands, pointing it at the door. My arms shook so violently I could barely keep it steady. Everything I thought I knew had been stripped away by those messages. I couldn't trust the voice that sounded like my wife. I couldn't trust the emergency system that was supposed to protect me. I couldn't even trust my own judgment anymore. The door began to open, and I saw a familiar silhouette in the doorway. I heard the bedroom door creak open, the sound cutting through the silence like a knife. My heart hammered against my ribs as footsteps moved across the hardwood floor. Soft, deliberate steps that I knew by heart. Sarah's steps. "David?" The voice was right there, just outside the closet door now. Perfect. Too perfect. Every inflection, every gentle concern in her tone. It was exactly how Sarah would sound if she'd come home to find me missing. "Honey, I know you're in there. Please come out." My phone buzzed against my palm, and I nearly dropped the gun. The screen lit up with another emergency alert. "Come out immediately. Hiding is no longer safe. Exit your location now." My blood turned to ice. The alerts weren't random warnings anymore. They were instructions, commands. Whatever was out there knew exactly where I was hiding, knew I was in this closet, knew I had the gun. The emergency system wasn't trying to protect me. It was coordinating with whatever stood outside that door. "David, please." The voice was so close I could almost feel breath through the door. "I'm scared. Why won't you answer me?" I stared at the phone screen, watching the alert blink. The thing outside knew my location. It knew I was armed. It was using the emergency system to flush me out, to make me come to it instead of having to force its way in. I'd been played from the very beginning. My hands stopped shaking. The fear crystallized into something harder, sharper. I wasn't going to cower in this closet anymore, waiting for it to decide when to end this game. I took a deep breath, gripped the gun with both hands, and burst through the closet door. Sarah stood in the middle of the bedroom, wearing her blue scrubs from the clinic. Her auburn hair was pulled back in the ponytail she always wore for work. She looked exactly like my wife in every detail, except for her eyes. They were too bright, too focused, like a predator that had been waiting patiently for prey to finally show itself. "There you are," she said, and smiled. The smile stretched too wide across her face, showing too many teeth. It was Sarah's mouth, Sarah's lips, but the expression was all wrong, like someone had studied how humans smiled but had never actually felt happiness. I didn't hesitate. I raised the gun and fired. The shot was deafening in the small bedroom. Sarah, or whatever was wearing her face, stumbled backward, a dark stain spreading across the blue fabric of her scrubs. She looked down at the wound with mild curiosity, like she was examining an interesting bug. Then she looked back up at me and started to stand. The wound wasn't bleeding right. The dark stain wasn't spreading the way blood should spread. And she was moving like the bullet had been nothing more than a minor inconvenience. "That wasn't very nice, David," she said, her voice still perfectly Sarah's, but with something cold underneath it now. I fired again, this time aiming for her chest. The impact knocked her back a step, but she kept coming forward, that too wide smile never wavering. I turned and ran. My feet hit the hardwood floor of the hallway, and I could hear her behind me. Not running, just walking with those same measured steps. Like she knew I couldn't get away. Like this was all part of whatever game she was playing. I reached the top of the stairs and took them 3 at a time, my hand sliding along the banister to keep from falling. Behind me, I heard the bedroom door frame creak as she passed through it. Heard her footsteps reach the top of the stairs. I took the stairs 3 at a time, my heart hammering against my ribs. The gun felt slippery in my sweaty palm as I gripped the banister with my other hand. Behind me, I could hear her footsteps, steady, deliberate, not rushed like mine. That should have been my first clue that something was seriously wrong. I hit the bottom of the stairs and stumbled slightly, catching myself against the wall. The kitchen was just ahead, and I could see my phone sitting on the counter where I'd left it earlier. The screen was lit up, which meant another alert had come through. My legs felt like jelly as I crossed the living room. Every instinct told me to keep running, to get out of the house entirely. But I needed that phone. I needed to understand what was happening. I reached the counter and grabbed the phone with my free hand, the gun still pointed toward the stairs. The emergency alert was already open on the screen, and I read it twice before the words really sank in. Emergency alert. Turn around. Look behind you now. My blood went cold. I spun around, raising the gun as I turned. She was standing in the kitchen doorway, maybe 10 feet away from me. At first glance, it looked like Sarah, same auburn hair, same green eyes, same blue scrubs from the clinic. But something was off. Her face looked wrong somehow, like someone had tried to recreate Sarah's features from memory, but gotten the proportions slightly off. Her smile was too wide, stretching further than any human smile should go. Her eyes didn't blink, just stared at me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. When she moved, it was jerky and unnatural, like a marionette being controlled by someone who'd never operated one before. "David," she said, and even her voice was wrong now. It still sounded like Sarah, but there was something hollow about it, like an echo of an echo. That's when it hit me. This thing wasn't Sarah at all. It was something else, something that had been wearing her appearance like a mask. The emergency alerts hadn't been warning me about a dangerous person. They'd been warning me about this. "You're not her," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The thing that looked like Sarah tilted its head at an impossible angle, the smile never wavering. "Of course I'm Sarah. I'm your wife." I raised the gun and fired. The bullet hit her center mass, and she staggered backward a step. Dark fluid leaked from the wound, but it wasn't blood. It was something thick and black that seemed to move on its own. She looked down at the hole in her scrubs with mild curiosity, like she was examining an interesting stain. "That wasn't very nice, David," she said, and started walking toward me again. I fired again, this time aiming for her head. The bullet caught her in the shoulder instead, spinning her around. More of that black fluid splattered against the kitchen wall, but she kept coming, her movements becoming even more erratic and puppet-like. I backed up against the counter, my hand frantically searching behind me. My fingers closed around the handle of a large kitchen knife from the block next to the stove. I pulled it free just as the thing reached me. It lunged forward with inhuman speed, its hands reaching for my throat. I drove the knife up and into its chest with all the strength I had left. The blade went in easily, like cutting through wet paper. The thing stopped moving instantly. Its too wide smile finally faded, and those unblinking eyes went dark. It collapsed to the kitchen floor with a wet thud, the black fluid pooling around it. I stood there for a long moment, breathing hard, the bloody knife still in my hand. My phone buzzed one more time. I looked down at the screen with shaking hands. Emergency alert. Threat neutralized. You are safe. No further action required. The thing on my kitchen floor had already started to change, its features becoming less defined, like wax melting in the sun. Whatever it had been, it was definitely dead now. I sat in the kitchen chair, staring at the black stain on the linoleum where the thing had been. My hand still shook as I held the phone, trying to make sense of what I'd just been through. The knife lay on the counter next to me, still sticky with that dark fluid that wasn't quite blood. I needed to call Sarah, the real Sarah. My fingers fumbled with the phone as I scrolled through my contacts. I found the clinic's main number and hit call, my heart still hammering in my chest. The phone rang twice before someone picked up. Riverside Medical Clinic. This is Denise. Hi, I need to speak with Sarah Mitchell. She's one of the nurses there. Hold on, let me check if she's available. The hold music felt like it lasted forever. I kept glancing at the spot where the creature had dissolved, half expecting to see something there. But there was just the stain and the lingering smell of something rotten. This is Sarah. Her voice hit me like a punch to the gut. It sounded exactly like the thing upstairs, but this time I knew it was really her. Sarah, it's me. Are you at work right now? David? Yeah, I'm here. I've been here all evening. Why do you sound so weird? I need you to come home. Right now. What's wrong? You're scaring me. Just come home. Please. And Sarah? Yeah? When you get here, don't come in alone. Call out to me first, okay? There was a pause. David, what happened? I'll explain when you get here. Just promise me you'll call out when you arrive. Okay, I promise. I'm leaving now. I hung up and sat back in the chair, trying to process what I'd tell her. How do you explain that something wearing her face had tried to kill you? That emergency alerts had guided me through the whole thing. I looked at my phone and opened the emergency alert app. My stomach dropped. The message history was completely empty. Every single alert I'd received was gone, like they'd never existed at all. I scrolled through the app, checking every section. Nothing. I went to my regular text messages, thinking maybe they'd been sent as texts instead. Still nothing. I checked my call log, my email, everything. There was no trace of any of the warnings I'd received. What the hell? I muttered, refreshing the app over and over. The alerts had been there. I'd read them dozens of times. They told me exactly what to do, warned me about the creature, even counted down the seconds. Now there was nothing. 20 minutes later, I heard a car pull into the driveway. My whole body tensed up, even though I knew it had to be Sarah. The real Sarah. David? Her voice came from outside the front door. David, I'm home. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. I'm in the kitchen, I called back. The front door opened and closed. I heard her footsteps on the hardwood, the same pattern I'd heard earlier. But this time it didn't fill me with dread. David, what's going on? Why did you want me to... She stopped in the kitchen doorway and saw me sitting next to the stain. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God, what happened? Is that blood? Sit down, I said, gesturing to the chair across from me. I need to tell you something, and you're not going to believe it. She sat down slowly, her eyes moving between me and the dark stain on the floor. David, you're really scaring me. I started from the beginning. The emergency alerts, the voice that sounded exactly like her, hiding in the closet, the creature that had worn her face. I showed her my phone, explaining how the alerts had guided me through everything. "But look," I said, opening the emergency alert app. "They're all gone. Every single message." Sarah took my phone and scrolled through it herself. "There's nothing here." "I know, but they were there." I read them over and over. She looked at the stain again. "And you said this thing looked exactly like me?" "Exactly. Same voice, same mannerisms, everything. If it wasn't for the alerts warning me, I would have opened that door." Sarah was quiet for a long time, studying the stain. "We should call the police." "And tell them what?" "That I killed something that looked like my wife, but now there's no body and no evidence. We have to try." I nodded. She was right. I dialed 911 and explained the situation as best I could. The dispatcher sounded skeptical, but she said officers would be out within the hour. While we waited, I called the emergency alert system directly. After being transferred 3 times, I finally got someone who could check my account. "I'm sorry, sir, but our records show no alerts were sent to your number today.